A new nurse saved 20 Navy SEALs in 2 hours, until the FBI arrived to investigate her past. "We need trauma beds. Now!" The roar came from Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cross, his face smeared with soot and someone else's blood. Behind him, the chaos was a living, breathing monster. 20 elite operators, men who were supposed to be invincible, were dragged in on stretchers, conscious but broken. The hospital staff froze, paralyzed by the sheer volume of carnage from the training exercise gone wrong. One person didn't freeze. Ashley, the temp nurse who had been there 3 days, stepped over a discarded IV line. She didn't look at Ryan's terrifying glare. She looked at the jugular of the man dying in his arms. "Put him down," she ordered, her voice cutting through the panic like a scalpel. "And get out of my way." The stench of burnt fuel and metallic copper filled the sterile hallway, a sensory assault that made even the veteran triage nurses gag. It was a mass casualty event, a code black, the kind of nightmare scenario hospitals train for, but pray never happens. A transport helicopter had suffered a catastrophic mechanical failure during a low-altitude extraction drill, slamming into the tarmac and rolling over 2 squads of SEALs. Ryan Cross stood in the center of the mayhem, his tactical gear heavy on his shoulders, his own forehead bleeding from a jagged cut he hadn't bothered to check. His eyes darted from bay to bay. His men were screaming, not in fear, but in the frustration of helplessness. "I need a doctor here," Ryan bellowed, gripping the rail of a gurney where his point man, Miller, was turning a terrifying shade of grey. "He's not breathing." Dr. Evans, the attending trauma surgeon, was overwhelmed. He was currently wrist-deep in a thoracic cavity 3 beds down. "I'm one man, Commander. We're paging everyone." "He doesn't have time for a page," Ryan snarled. Suddenly, a small hand shoved Ryan's chest. It wasn't a polite nudge, it was a kinetic strike, calculated to break his balance just enough to move him. "Move," Ashley said. She was small, her scrubs slightly too big, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy, utilitarian bun. Ryan had seen her once before in the break room, quiet, reading a book, avoiding eye contact. Now, her eyes were dilated, focused, and terrifyingly calm. She didn't wait for permission. She vaulted onto the gurney, straddling Miller's legs. "Tension pneumothorax," she announced, not as a question, but as a verdict. "Trachea is deviated left. No breath sounds on the right. He's going to code in 10 seconds. "You can't do a needle decompression without an order," a senior nurse shouted from the nurse's station, freezing with a clipboard in hand. "Ashley, wait for the resident." "He's dead in 5, Ashley countered, her voice devoid of emotion. She didn't look for a kit. She reached into her own scrub pocket, a violation of protocol, and pulled out a 14-gauge angiocath. She ripped Miller's shirt open, buttons scattering across the linoleum floor like hail. Ryan watched, mesmerized and horrified. He knew combat medicine. He knew the procedure. But he had never seen it done with this speed by a civilian. She palpated the second intercostal space with 2 fingers, not hesitating for a fraction of a second, and drove the needle into Miller's chest. A sharp hiss of escaping air filled the small silence around them. Miller's chest heaved. He gasped, a ragged, desperate intake of oxygen, his color flushing back from grey to pink. Ashley didn't celebrate. She capped the needle, taped it down with a one-handed tear of medical tape, and jumped off the gurney. She was already moving to the next bed before Miller's eyes even opened. "Start a liter of LR, wide open," she threw the command over her shoulder at a stunned nursing student. "Get a chest tube tray ready for Evans when he's free. Next." Ryan stood rooted to the spot. He had spent 10 years in the teams. He knew the difference between a medical professional who knew the textbook and an operator who knew the reality of death. The way she moved, efficient, eliminating wasted motion, checking her peripherals. It wasn't nursing school training. He followed her. She was at bed 4 now. "Compound fracture, tibia," she muttered, her hands moving like a blurred machine. She reduced the fracture, snapping the bone back into alignment before the soldier could even scream, using the pain shock to her advantage. "Splint it. Check his distal pulses every 5 minutes. If they fade, page vascular immediately." She moved to bed 6. "Burn victim. Get the ketamine, not morphine. Morphine drops the blood pressure too much with this fluid loss. We don't use ketamine as a first line for—" A resident doctor started to argue. Ashley spun on him. The look she gave him was so cold it could have frozen the blood on the floor. "He has 3rd-degree burns on 40% of his body, and his BP is 80/50. Morphine will kill him. Push 50 milligrams of ketamine, now." The resident swallowed hard and nodded, scrambling for the vial. For 60 minutes, Ryan didn't command his unit. Ashley did. She was a conductor of chaos, moving from one critical patient to another, stopping bleeds with direct pressure that seemed to defy physics, diagnosing internal injuries with a touch, and barking orders that saved seconds, and therefore lives. By the time the extra-surgical teams arrived from the university hospital across town, the crisis was over. All 20 men were stable. Ashley stood in the center of the trauma bay. Her scrubs were soaked in crimson. Her hands were trembling now, a fine, high-frequency tremor that Ryan recognized. It was the adrenaline dump, the crash after the combat high. She looked up and locked eyes with Ryan. For a second, the mask slipped. He saw fear. Not the fear of the blood, but the fear of being seen. She immediately looked down, stripping off her gloves. "I'm going to wash up," she whispered, and disappeared toward the locker rooms. Ryan touched the earpiece of his radio, though he wasn't transmitting. He was just grounding himself. Who the hell is she? The adrenaline was fading, replaced by the dull, throbbing ache of Ryan's own injuries and the crushing weight of command. He sat on a metal stool in the hallway, a bandage finally applied to his forehead. The hospital corridor was quieter now, the frantic shouting replaced by the rhythmic beeping of monitors and the squeak of orthopedic shoes. "Commander?" Ryan looked up. Dr. Evans looked exhausted, his surgical cap pulled off to reveal matted, sweaty hair. "How are they?" Ryan asked, his voice gravelly. "It's a miracle, frankly," Evans said, leaning against the wall. "Miller should have suffocated. Jenkins should have bled out from that femoral nick. Martinez should have gone into shock." He shook his head, looking down the hall where Ashley had vanished. "That new nurse, Ashley. She saved at least 4 of them before I could even glove up." Ryan narrowed his eyes. "She violated protocol." "She saved their lives," Evans corrected him sharply. "But you're right, the way she worked. I've been a trauma surgeon for 20 years, Ryan. I did a tour in Kandahar. I've never seen a civilian nurse reduce a fracture like that without an X-ray, or dose ketamine with that specific confidence." "She's a temp," Ryan said, the suspicion coiling in his gut like a snake. "Agency hire?" "Yeah. Came in 3 days ago. Paperwork said she transferred from a quiet clinic in Ohio. Urgent care stuff." Ryan scoffed, a dark, humorless sound. "Urgent care in Ohio doesn't teach you how to field dress a sucking chest wound while shouting down a resident. That woman has seen combat, Doc." Evans rubbed his face. "Well, whatever she's seen, you owe her. We all do." Ryan stood up, his joints popping. "I'm going to thank her." "Ryan," Evans warned, sensing the predator waking up in the SEAL. "She's staff. Don't go interrogating her." "Just saying thanks," Ryan lied. He walked toward the female locker rooms, stopping just outside the door near the scrub sinks. He heard water running. He waited. A moment later, Ashley emerged. She had changed into fresh scrubs, dark blue this time. Her hair was down, wet at the tips where she had splashed her face. She looked younger now, fragile even. The terrifying commander of the ER was gone, replaced by a woman who looked like she was trying to shrink into the walls. She froze when she saw him leaning against the linen cart. "Commander," she said, her voice soft, lacking the steel it had held an hour ago. She clutched a tote bag tight to her chest. "Ryan," he corrected. "You saved my men." "I did my job." She tried to step around him. Ryan sidestepped, blocking her path. Not aggressively, but firmly. He was a wall of muscle and tactical nylon, and he knew how to dominate a space. "That wasn't a job. That was a skill set. Where did you serve?" Ashley's eyes flinched, a micro-expression. If he hadn't been trained in interrogation, he would have missed it. "I didn't. I'm from Ohio." "Ohio," Ryan repeated, stepping closer. "So in Ohio, they teach the modified Cooper technique for reducing shoulders. Because I watched you pop Hernandez's shoulder back in using a knee leverage move that isn't in nursing textbooks. It's in the Special Forces Medical Handbook." Ashley's grip on her bag tightened until her knuckles turned white. "I read a lot, Ryan." "Excuse me." She tried to push past him. Ryan instinctively reached out to grab her arm, a gentle detainment just to make her stop. The reaction was instantaneous. Before Ryan's fingers could close around her bicep, Ashley dropped her center of gravity. Her left hand shot up to deflect his wrist, while her right hand bladed, stopping an inch from his throat. It was a Krav Maga defense, executed with muscle memory so deep it was essentially a reflex. They froze. Ryan stared at her hand, hovering near his windpipe. Ashley stared at his wrist, which she had pinned with perfect leverage. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Ashley snatched her hands back as if she had been burned. She stumbled backward, horror washing over her face. I took a self-defense class. At the Y, in Dayton." Ryan looked at her, his eyes hard. "That wasn't the YMCA, Ashley. Who are you?" "I have to go," she whispered. "My shift is over." She didn't walk away. She fled. She moved with that same fluid, silent grace, disappearing around the corner, before Ryan could think of a reason to stop her that wouldn't get him arrested for assaulting a civilian. Ryan pulled his phone from his tactical vest. He dialed a number he hadn't used in 6 months. "Yeah?" a voice answered on the second ring. "It's Cross," Ryan said, watching the empty hallway. "I need you to run a background check. Deep dive. Priority 1. Target? A nurse at St. Jude's. Goes by Ashley. Let me get the last name." Ryan walked over to the shift board on the wall. "Ashley Vance. On it. Give me an hour." "Give me." "You have 20 minutes, Ryan said. Something is wrong. Ashley Vance sat in her car, a battered Honda Civic parked in the deepest shadows of the parking garage's 4th level. Her hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard the leather was creaking. "You slipped." The voice in her head was her father's, or maybe her instructor's. It didn't matter anymore. They were both ghosts. You saved them, and you exposed yourself. You should have let the resident handle the burn victim. You should have let Evans handle the airway. "They would have died," she whispered to the dashboard. She looked at the rear-view mirror. Her blue eyes looked back, wide and haunted. She had spent 2 years building this life. The boring clothes, the cheap apartment, the fake resume from a defunct clinic in a flyover state. She was invisible. She was safe. Until today. She looked down at her hands. They were steady now, but the itch was there. The itch of action. For 2 hours she hadn't been Ashley Vance. the quiet temp. She had been her, the operative, the asset, the woman who didn't exist. She needed to leave. That was the protocol. If compromised, burn the identity and move. She had a go bag in the trunk, $50,000 in cash, a passport under the name Sarah Jenkins, and a burner phone. She could be in Mexico by sunrise. She reached for the ignition. Then she stopped. She thought of Miller's face as the air rushed back into his lungs. She thought of the young one, the kid with the burns, Hernandez. He was maybe 22. He had gripped her hand while the ketamine took hold and whispered, "Mama." If she left, she was safe. But Ryan Cross had looked at her, not just with suspicion, but with recognition. Not of her face, but of her soul. He saw the predator inside the nurse's scrubs. If she ran now, it would confirm everything. It would trigger a manhunt. A SEAL commander with a suspicion was dangerous. A SEAL commander with proof of flight was a bloodhound. "Stick to the lie," she breathed. "Deny, deflect, de-escalate." She forced herself to open the car door. She wasn't leaving. Not yet. She had to finish her shift paperwork. If she vanished now, it was a red flag. If she went back in, finished her charts, and acted like a traumatized civilian, maybe she could salvage this. She walked back toward the hospital entrance, the cool night air chilling the sweat on her neck. Inside, the ER had settled into a low hum. The crisis was managed. The SEALs had been moved to the ICU, or the secure ward. Ashley went to the nurse's station, keeping her head down. She logged into the terminal to chart Miller's vitals. "Hey." The voice came from behind her. Low. Baritone. She didn't jump this time. She turned slowly. Ryan was there. He had showered, changed into clean fatigues, but he looked just as dangerous. He held 2 steaming cups of coffee. "Peace offering," he said, extending one. Ashley hesitated, then took it. "I don't drink coffee after midnight. Makes me jittery." "Decaf," Ryan said. "I figured you'd be crashing soon." She took a sip. It wasn't decaf, it was jet fuel. He was testing her attention to detail. She didn't react. "I looked up that YMCA in Dayton," Ryan said casually, leaning against the counter. "They offer Zumba and Pilates. No Krav Maga." Ashley met his gaze. She was tired of running, at least for tonight. It was a private instructor. "Look, Ryan, you're grateful. I get it. But you're imagining things. I'm just a nurse who watches too many medical dramas and has good reflexes." "You triaged 20 men in 12 minutes, Ryan said, stepping closer, invading her personal space again. The air between them crackled. It wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was an undeniable magnetic tension. 2 apex predators circling each other in a room full of sheep. "You didn't panic. You didn't hesitate. You took command from an attending surgeon. That's not medical dramas, Ashley. That's command presence. What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice dropping to a whisper. "The truth." "The truth is," she said, leaning in, "if I hadn't been here, 3 of your men would be in the morgue. So maybe stop looking for a conspiracy and just say thank you." Ryan stared at her. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her or arrest her. His eyes dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes. "Thank you," he said softly. The radio on his hip chirped. "Commander Cross." Ryan didn't break eye contact. "Go ahead. We got a hit on those plates you asked for. The Honda Civic registered to Ashley Vance." Ashley's heart hammered against her ribs. She kept her face perfectly still. "It's a ghost car, sir. VIN doesn't match the factory records. And the SSN for Ashley Vance, it belongs to a woman who died in 1998. Ryan didn't say anything. He just looked at her. The softness vanished, replaced by the steel of the soldier. Ashley took a step back. She calculated the exit routes. Stairwell B was 20 feet away. "Who are you?" Ryan asked again, his hand drifting toward his belt, not for a weapon, but to block her. Before she could answer, the automatic doors at the main entrance slid open with a heavy whoosh. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. 3 men in dark suits walked in. They didn't look like hospital administrators. They didn't look like family members. They walked with the heavy, arrogant stride of federal authority. The man in the lead, holding a tablet, scanned the room. His eyes landed on Ashley. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Secure the exits," the suit said to his team. Ryan turned, placing himself between Ashley and the newcomers. It was an instinct he couldn't control. "Who the hell are you?" The lead agent flashed a badge. "FBI. Special Agent Thorne. Step aside, Commander. We're here for her." Ryan looked back at Ashley. "FBI? What did you do?" Ashley looked at the agents, then at Ryan. Her eyes were filled with a terrifying resignation. "I didn't do anything," she said, her voice trembling. "That's the problem. Grab her," Thorne ordered. "No," Ryan shouted, raising a hand. But Ashley didn't wait for his protection. As the agents lunged, she vaulted over the nurse's station counter, clearing the 4-foot barrier with the grace of an Olympian, and sprinted toward the pharmacy storeroom. "We have a runner!" Thorne yelled, drawing a weapon. "Don't you shoot her!" Ryan tackled Thorne's arm down just as the gun went off. The gunshot shattered the glass of the medication cabinet, screaming through the ER. Ashley was gone. The echo of the gunshot died, but the screaming didn't. Ryan Cross didn't get up immediately. He kept his weight pressed down on Special Agent Thorne's forearm, pinning the weapon to the linoleum. The smell of cordite was sharp and acrid, mixing with the hospital smell of antiseptic. "Get off me!" Thorne roared, his face turning a mottled shade of crimson. "You are interfering with a federal operation." Ryan leaned in close, his voice a low, dangerous rumble that only Thorne could hear. "You fired a weapon in a pediatric trauma center, you son of a bitch. You better pray she's armed, because if you just shot a nurse in the back, I will end you right here. Commander Cross, stand down!" 2 other agents had their weapons drawn, leveled at Ryan's head. The hospital security guards were shouting, backing away with their hands up. Dr. Evans was shielding a nurse with his own body. Ryan slowly released his grip, raising his hands to shoulder height. He stood up, towering over Thorne. Thorne scrambled to his feet, straightening his suit jacket, his eyes burning with humiliation and rage. "Check the storeroom," Thorne barked at his team. "Go, now." The 2 agents kicked open the pharmacy door, sweeping the room with tactical precision. "Clear!" one shouted. "Back door is breached. She's gone." Thorne spun on Ryan, jabbing a finger into his chest. "You just aided a fugitive. Do you have any idea what you've done? That woman is a national security threat." "She's a nurse who just saved my platoon," Ryan retorted, knocking Thorne's hand away. "And you came in here like a hit squad. No Miranda rights, no warrant shown, just secure the exits. And bullets?" "We don't need a warrant for a ghost, Commander." Thorne stepped in close, his voice dropping to a hiss. "Ashley Vance doesn't exist. The woman you were talking to is suspected of espionage, sabotage, and the murder of 3 CIA assets in Berlin 2 years ago. She is armed, highly trained, and extremely dangerous." Ryan's face remained a stone mask, but his gut clenched. Berlin. Espionage. It fit the skills. It fit the dead eyes. But it didn't fit the woman who had gently taped Miller's IV line, or the one who had whispered to Hernandez. "If she's a killer," Ryan said, "why didn't she kill you? She had the drop on you before you even cleared the door." Thorne didn't answer. He turned to his radio. "Set a perimeter. 3-block radius. Notify NYPD. I want air support. She's on foot. Ryan watched them scramble. He needed to move. He was technically a witness, which meant they would detain him for questioning any second now. He caught Dr. Evans's eye across the room. The surgeon gave a microscopic nod. "I need to check on my men," Ryan announced loudly. "Unless you're arresting me, Agent Thorne." Thorne glared at him. He knew he couldn't arrest a decorated SEAL commander in the middle of a hospital without causing a PR nightmare, especially not after firing a gun in the ER. "Don't leave the city, Cross," Thorne warned. "We're not done." "I'm not going anywhere," Ryan lied. He turned and walked toward the ICU, his stride purposeful. As soon as he rounded the corner and was out of sight, he broke into a run. He didn't go to the ICU. He went to the stairwell, taking the steps 3 at a time down to the basement level, the laundry and waste disposal outcome. If Ashley was as good as he thought she was, she wouldn't have gone out the back door into the alley. That was the funnel. The fatal funnel. She would have gone down. The basement was a labyrinth of steam pipes and humming generators. Ryan moved silently, his weapon, a concealed Glock 19 he carried off duty, pressed against his hip. He found the evidence near the loading dock, a discarded scrub top, stained with blood that wasn't hers. A stolen maintenance jacket was missing from a hook nearby. She had switched skins. Ryan pushed through the heavy steel doors onto the loading dock. The night air was heavy with rain. The city was a grid of lights and shadows, millions of hiding places. He pulled out his phone. He had one contact who could find things that didn't want to be found, a former signal intelligence officer named Static, who operated out of a basement in Queens. "Static," Ryan said when the line connected. "I need you to track a burner. It was active inside St. Jude's Hospital 10 minutes ago. It just went dark." "You and the rest of the federal government, boss." Static's synthesized voice crackled. "I'm seeing FBI chatter lighting up the boards. Who is this girl? Did she steal the nuclear codes?" "She stole my attention," Ryan muttered. "Can you track her?" "If she pulled the battery, no. But if she's smart, and if the feds are chasing her, she better be. She'll dump the phone on a moving target to throw off the triangulation. Check the city bus lines. Routes leaving St. Jude's in the last 5 minutes." A pause. The sound of furious typing. "Got a ping?" Static said. "A device registered to a Jane Doe, lazy alias, just pinged off a tower on 4th and Main, moving east at 30 miles an hour. It's on the M14 bus." "Thanks," Ryan said. "Ryan," Static warned. "The encryption on the FBI channel. This isn't normal bureau stuff. This is Omega clearance. Black Ops. If you catch her, you might catch a bullet from your own side." "I'm already in the crossfire," Ryan said, and hung up. He sprinted toward his truck, a matte black Ford F-150 parked in the physician's lot. He didn't care about the FBI perimeter. He knew the gaps in their net better than they did. He was a hunter, and for the first time in years, he had found prey that challenged him. But he wasn't hunting to kill. He was hunting to ask one question. Was it real? Because when she had looked at him, terrified and vulnerable in the hallway, Ryan hadn't seen a spy. He had seen a woman drowning, and he had a nasty habit of saving people who were already too deep. Ashley sat in the back of the M14 bus, her head bowed, the hood of the stolen maintenance jacket pulled low over her face. She held a mop bucket between her legs to complete the disguise of a night shift janitor. Her side burned. A shard of glass from the medicine cabinet had sliced her oblique muscle when she vaulted the counter. It wasn't deep, maybe an inch, but it was bleeding. She could feel the warm stickiness spreading against her waistband. She needed to stitch it. She needed antibiotics. She needed a gun. The bus lurched to a halt at 14th Street. Ashley didn't get off. She waited for the doors to hiss closed, then waited 2 more stops. The bus was mostly empty. A drunk sleeping in the front, a nurse coming off shift, the irony stung her, and a teenager with headphones. She stood up at First Avenue. She left the burner phone wedged between the seat cushions. Let the FBI track the bus to the depot. By the time they stormed it, she would be 3 miles away. She stepped off into the rain. The water felt good. It washed away the hospital smell, the scent of antiseptic and fear. She walked with a limp, fake, to mask her natural athletic gait. She headed toward the Lower East Side, to a bodega that looked run down but had a very specific neon sign in the window. A blue cat. She pushed the door open. The bell jingled. The man behind the counter was old, his face a map of deep wrinkles. He didn't look up from his newspaper. "We're closed," he grunted. "I'm looking for a specific vintage," Ashley said, her voice steady. "Chateau de Berlin, 2018. The old man froze. He slowly lowered the paper. His eyes were hard, intelligent, and dangerous. "That was a bad year for wine," he replied, "and for people." "I need the package, Elias," she said, dropping the accent. Elias stared at her for a long moment, then sighed. He reached under the counter and pressed a button. A magnetic lock clicked in the back of the store. "You have 5 minutes," he said. "Then you never came here." Ashley slipped into the back room. It was filled with dusty boxes of canned soup, but behind a stack of crates was a floor safe. She spun the dial. Left 10, right 33, left 9. It clicked. Inside was a waterproof Pelican case. She opened it. A Glock 26 with 2 spare mags, a wad of cash, 10,000 in non-sequential 20s, a fake passport, and a small medical kit. She worked fast. She stripped off the maintenance jacket and the blood-soaked scrub top. She used the reflection in a dusty mirror to clean the wound on her side. She bit down on a piece of leather scrap to keep from screaming as she poured alcohol over the cut. Then she used the stapler from the kit. Chunk, chunk, chunk. 3 staples, crude but effective. She changed into the clothes in the box. Black jeans, a grey hoodie, a dark denim jacket, nondescript, urban camouflage. She holstered the gun at the small of her back. It felt like a heavy, cold reassurance. She was about to close the safe when she saw it, a photo at the bottom of the box. It was old, frayed at the edges. It showed a group of soldiers in desert camo, smiling in front of a Humvee. She was in the middle, younger, happier, and next to her. She squeezed her eyes shut. "Don't go there. Focus." She slammed the safe shut and stood up. She exited the back room. Elias was waiting, a shotgun now resting on the counter. "They are looking for you," Elias said. "The news is already running a person of interest banner. Armed and dangerous." "Am I?" Ashley asked. "You tell me, Ghost." "I didn't kill those men in Berlin, Elias." "Doesn't matter what you did," Elias said, sliding a pack of cigarettes across the counter. "It matters what they think you know. Go. The cameras are off, but the streets have eyes." Ashley took the cigarettes. She didn't smoke, but they were good for trade, and stepped back out into the rain. She needed a car, not a rental, not a steal. She needed a ghost ride. She turned down an alleyway, scanning the cars parked behind the tenements. She was looking for something older, pre-2010, something without a GPS transponder. She found a beat-up Ford Taurus. Perfect. She had her slim gym tool out of her pocket and into the window seal in 3 seconds. The lock popped. She was inside and hot-wiring the ignition when the passenger door opened. Ashley spun, the Glock in her hand in a blur of motion. She found herself staring down the barrel of a Sig Sauer P226. Holding it was Ryan Cross. He was soaking wet. Water dripped from the brim of a baseball cap he had pulled low. He sat in the passenger seat calmly, as if he were waiting for an Uber. You have a tail light out, Ryan said. Get out, Ashley hissed, her finger tightening on the trigger. No. Ryan didn't flinch. You shoot me. The gunshot brings the cops in 2 minutes. You don't shoot me, we talk. Those are your options. How did you find me? You limp on your left side when you're tired, but your injury is on the right. It's a tell. Also, you took the M14 bus but got off early. This neighborhood has 3 known safe houses for burned spies. Elias is the only one who owes favors to the Navy. Ashley stared at him. You know Elias. I pulled his son out of a cave in Helmand Province. Ryan lowered his gun slowly. Put it down, Ashley, or Sarah, or whatever your name is. It's Ashley, she said, her voice cracking slightly. She didn't lower the gun. You need to walk away, Ryan. Thorne isn't just FBI. He's the cleaner. I figured that out when he tried to shoot you in a hospital, Ryan said. That's why I'm here. You saved my men. I don't leave my people behind. I am not your people. You are tonight. Ryan reached into his pocket. Ashley flinched, almost firing. He pulled out a clean bandage and a bottle of water. You're bleeding through your shirt. Let me drive. You patch up. We get out of the city. Where are we going? Somewhere safe, Ryan said. My place. That's the first place they'll look. Not my apartment, Ryan corrected. My place. The one the Navy doesn't know about. Ashley studied him. The rain hammered on the roof of the stolen car. She was exhausted. Her side was throbbing with a pulse of its own. She had no backup, no extraction team, and the entire U.S. intelligence apparatus was hunting her. And here was this man, this stranger she had saved, offering her a lifeline. She lowered the gun. If you cross me, she whispered, I will kill you. Ryan smiled, a grim, dangerous expression. I'd be disappointed if you didn't try. He took the keys from her hand. Buckle up, nurse. It's going to be a bumpy night. The drive was silent and tense. Ryan drove with constant vigilance, checking his mirrors every 4 seconds, taking a convoluted route that involved 3 U-turns and a dash through a construction site to shake any potential tail. They ended up an hour north of the city, in a dense woodland area near the Catskills. The place was a cabin, set back 2 miles from the main road, down a dirt track that would have swallowed a sedan. The F-150 handled it with ease. Ryan killed the headlights for the last mile, driving with night vision goggles he pulled from the glove box. Show off, Ashley muttered, clutching her side. The adrenaline was crashing again, leaving her shivering. Operational security, Ryan replied. He parked the truck in a barn, hiding it from satellite view. They entered the cabin. It was sparse, exposed wood, a stone fireplace, a gun rack, and a heavy steel door leading to a basement. Generator is around back, but we won't use it, Ryan said, locking the door and barring it with a heavy oak beam. We go dark. Candles and fireplace only. Thermal shielding on the roof. He moved to the fireplace and started a fire with expert efficiency. The warmth began to fill the room, chasing away the damp chill of the escape. Ashley sat on the leather couch, her teeth chattering. The blood loss was catching up to her. Let me see it, Ryan commanded gently, kneeling in front of her with a fully stocked medical kit. A real trauma kit, not the makeshift one she had used. Ashley hesitated, then lifted her shirt. The 3 staples held the skin together, but the area was angry and swollen. Ryan inspected it without judgment. Sloppy work on the staples, but it stopped the bleeding. I was in a hurry, she murmured. He cleaned the wound properly, applying a numbing agent and fresh gauze. His hands were large, calloused, and incredibly gentle. The intimacy of the moment was jarring. Hours ago she had been a nurse, and he a commander. Then enemies. Now, partners. Thorne called you a traitor, Ryan said, taping the bandage down. He didn't look up. He said, "You killed 3 CIA agents in Berlin." "I didn't kill them," Ashley said, her voice hollow. "I was trying to warn them." Ryan sat back on his heels, looking at her. The firelight danced in his dark eyes. "Warn them about what?" "Operation Paladin," Ashley said. The words tasted like ash. "It was supposed to be a simple extraction, a defector from Russian intelligence. But when my team got there, the defector wasn't Russian. He was American, a whistleblower." Ryan went still. "Who?" "An analyst who found proof that a sect of the intelligence community was selling Stinger missiles to insurgent groups to destabilize regions and justify budget hikes. Thorne was the handler for the operation." "Jesus," Ryan breathed. "Thorne ordered the team to liquidate the asset. My team. They followed orders. They killed the whistleblower. I tried to stop them. A firefight broke out. My team died. Thorne framed me for it all. I've been running for 2 years." She looked at Ryan, expecting to see doubt, expecting him to pull his gun. Instead, Ryan looked angry, a cold, simmering rage. "That explains why he wanted you dead in the ER, Ryan said. "If you talk, he goes to prison for life, or the electric chair." "I have the proof," Ashley whispered. "I have the drive the whistleblower gave me. It's encrypted. I've never been able to crack it without alerting the NSA." "Where is it?" Ashley tapped the heel of her boot. "Hollow heel." Ryan let out a short, incredulous laugh. "Old school. It works." Ryan stood up and paced the room. "Okay, so we have the evidence, but we can't decrypt it without tripping the alarms, and we can't turn it in because we don't know who else is dirty." "Exactly," Ashley said. "That's why I was hiding. I was waiting for, I don't know, a miracle." "You got a SEAL platoon instead," Ryan said. Suddenly, a sound cut through the quiet crackle of the fire. Snap. It was faint, a twig breaking outside. Ryan froze. He held up a hand. Ashley stopped breathing. Ryan moved to the window, peering through a crack in the blackout curtains. He saw nothing but darkness. But he knew the woods. He knew the sound of a deer stepping, rhythmic versus a man stepping, hesitant. "We're burned," Ryan whispered. "How?" Ashley scrambled up, ignoring the pain in her side. "We weren't followed." "Tracker," Ryan realized, looking at his truck keys. "Not on the truck. On me." He ripped off his watch, a tactical Garmin, and threw it into the fireplace. "They hacked the GPS." "How many?" Ashley asked, drawing her Glock. "Heat signatures, 4, approaching from the south, moving in a wedge formation." Ryan moved to the gun rack. He tossed Ashley an M4 carbine. "You know how to use this?" Ashley caught it, checked the chamber, and adjusted the stock in one fluid motion. "I qualified expert." "Good." Ryan grabbed a shotgun and a scoped rifle. "Because Thorne didn't come to arrest us. He sent a cleaning crew." "Ryan," Ashley said, her voice trembling slightly, "you can still walk out. Tell them I held you hostage. They want me." Ryan looked at her. He saw the fear, but he also saw the steel. He saw the woman who had saved 20 of his brothers when she could have run. He racked the slide of the shotgun. "We fight," Ryan said. "Nobody dies today, except them." Glass shattered in the back room as a flashbang grenade was thrown in. "Down!" Ryan tackled Ashley behind the heavy oak couch just as the room exploded in blinding white light and deafening sound. The front door was kicked off its hinges. Laser sights cut through the smoke. The battle for the truth had just begun. The world was white noise and ringing ears. The flashbang had detonated in the center of the room, turning the cozy cabin into a disorienting hellscape of smoke and high-pitched whining. Ryan Cross didn't think. He reacted. His body was a machine built for this specific frequency of violence. He dragged Ashley down behind the heavy oak sofa, just as the wood above their heads disintegrated into splinters. Automatic gunfire chewed through the furniture, seeking flesh. "Stay low," Ryan roared, though he could barely hear himself. Ashley wasn't cowering. She was already moving. She had the M4 carbine tucked into her shoulder, her eyes streaming from the acrid smoke, scanning for a target. She didn't look like a nurse anymore. The terrified woman from the hospital was gone. The operative had taken the wheel. "4 targets," Ashley signaled with her hand, 4 fingers up, then a fist. 2 front, 2 flanking kitchen. Ryan nodded. He racked the shotgun. "I'll take the front. You flush the kitchen. On 3. 1, 2, 3! Ryan surged up from cover. He fired 2 blasts toward the shattered doorway. The buckshot spread was devastating at this range. One of the tactical operators in the doorway crumpled, his armor plate shattering under the impact. The second man dived for cover behind the overturned dining table. Ryan pumped the shotgun, suppressing the second man. "Go!" Ashley broke cover, sprinting, not away from the danger, but parallel to it. She slid across the floorboards into the kitchen alcove. The 2 men coming through the back entrance weren't expecting a counterattack. They were expecting prey cowering in a corner. Ashley didn't hesitate. She double-tapped the first man in the chest, controlled pairs, center mass. He went down. The second man raised his weapon, but Ashley dropped to one knee, making herself a smaller target, and fired a single shot. Headshot. The man dropped instantly. "Kitchen clear!" she yelled, her voice steady. "Front is suppressed," Ryan shouted back. "We need to move. They'll have a second wave." Ryan grabbed a heavy iron poker from the fireplace and hurled it through the back window, clearing the glass. "Out! Go!" Ashley vaulted through the window, rolling onto the wet grass outside. Ryan followed, landing heavy beside her. The rain was pouring down now, turning the ground to mud. "The barn," Ryan hissed. "Get to the truck." They sprinted through the darkness. Bullets zipped past them, suppressed fire snapping like angry hornets. The remaining shooter from the front was pursuing. Ryan stopped, turned, and raised the scoped rifle he had grabbed. He didn't have night vision on, but he had the muzzle flash of the enemy to guide him. He exhaled. Crack. The pursuer dropped. Silence returned to the woods, heavy and suffocating, broken only by the rain. They reached the barn. Ryan yanked the truck door open. "Get in!" Ashley climbed into the passenger seat, her chest heaving. She looked at her hands. They were covered in soot and blood, some hers, some from the men she had just killed. Ryan jumped in and keyed the ignition. The engine roared to life. He didn't turn on the headlights. He drove by memory, tearing out of the barn and down the muddy track, putting distance between them and the carnage. "You okay?" Ryan asked, glancing at her. Ashley stared out the window at the passing trees. "I haven't held a gun in 2 years. I thought I'd forget." "Muscle memory doesn't forget," Ryan said grimly. "Neither does trauma." "Those men," Ashley whispered. "They weren't FBI. They moved like us." "Mercenaries," Ryan confirmed. "Private military contractors. Thorne isn't using Bureau resources anymore. He's going off the books, which means he's scared." "He should be," Ashley said, turning to look at him. Her eyes were hard as diamonds. "Because we're done running. We have the drive. We have the guns. Now we just need an army." Ryan smirked, a dangerous glint in his eye. "I know a few guys. They might be a little banged up, but they owe you a favor." The Brooklyn Navy Yard at 3 a.m. was a graveyard of rusted iron and forgotten history. Shadows stretched long between the hulls of decommissioned destroyers. It was the perfect place for ghosts to meet. Ryan pulled the F-150 into the shadow of a massive crane. He killed the engine. "Are you sure they'll come?" Ashley asked, checking the magazine of her M4. "They're SEALs," Ryan said. "If they can crawl, they'll come." A moment later, 2 black SUVs rolled into the lot, headlights off. They parked in a defensive V formation around Ryan's truck. The doors opened. Ashley held her breath. Out stepped Miller, his arm in a sling, his chest heavily bandaged under a tactical vest. Behind him was Hernandez, walking with a cane, his burn dressings visible on his neck. Then came Doc Peterson, the platoon medic, and Switch, the comms specialist, 6 men in total, battered, bruised, stitched up, and heavily armed. Miller walked up to Ryan and saluted with his good arm. "Commander, you look like hell." "Pot kettle," Ryan replied, clasping Miller's hand. "You checked yourself out against medical advice, didn't you?" "I told the nurse I was going for a smoke," Miller grinned. Then his expression sobered as he looked at Ashley. He walked past Ryan and stood in front of her. The other men fell silent. Miller didn't salute. He extended his hand. "Mom, you saved my life. I heard you put a needle in my chest before the docs even had their gloves on." Ashley took his hand. "I just did what had to be done, Miller." "Well," Miller said, looking at the M4 in her hands. "Looks like you're still doing it. The commander says we're hunting a dirty Fed." "Special Agent Thorne," Ashley said. "He's selling out assets. He framed me. And tonight, he tried to kill us." "Switch," Ryan barked. "You brought the rig?" "Aye, sir," Switch said, opening the back of one of the SUVs to reveal a portable server rack and satellite uplink. "If it's digital, I can crack it." They set up shop inside a rusted shipping container. Ashley handed over the heel of her boot. Ryan pried it open and retrieved the micro SD card. Switch plugged it in. "Encrypted. A ES-256. Nasty stuff. But wait, it has a biometric keylock." "It needs a retina scan," Ashley realized. "The whistleblower. He said it was keyed to him." "He's dead," Ryan said. "But I have his access codes," Ashley said. "He gave them to me before he died. Tri-Paladin 09. Switch typed furiously. The screen flashed red, then green. Files began to scroll, thousands of them. "Holy Mother," Switch whispered. "Bank transfers, missile manifests, audio recordings of Thorne authorizing hits on US soil. This isn't just a rogue agent. This is a shadow network." "It's enough to put him away for 1,000 years, Ryan said. "But we can't just email this to the Washington Post. Thorne has eyes everywhere. If we leak it, he disappears." "We need to bring him out," Ashley said. "We need to make him think he's won." Ryan looked at the map of the shipyard on the wall. "We set a trap. We offer him a trade. The drive for your life." "He won't believe I'd surrender," Ashley said. "He will," Ryan said softly, "if he thinks I betrayed you." Ashley looked at Ryan. The plan hung in the air, dangerous and fragile. "You call him," Ryan said. "Tell him I'm injured. Tell him I'm trying to leverage the drive for my own amnesty. Tell him to meet us here at dawn." "And when he shows up?" Miller asked, checking the safety on his weapon. Ryan looked at his battered, broken, lethal platoon. "When he shows up, we remind him why you don't mess with the Navy." The sun rose over the East River, painting the rusted metal of the shipyard in hues of blood orange. Ryan stood in the center of the open lot, his hands zip-tied behind his back, loosely with a quick-release knot. He was on his knees. Ashley stood 10 feet away, holding the drive up to the light. She looked defeated, her shoulders slumped. A convoy of 4 armored SUVs rolled into the yard. They stopped 50 yards away. Thorne stepped out of the lead vehicle. He was wearing a trench coat, looking every bit the triumphant villain. He was flanked by 12 heavily armed contractors. "Smart choice, Ashley," Thorne called out, his voice echoing off the shipping containers. "I knew you were a pragmatist." He walked forward, his men fanning out. "Let him go," Ashley shouted, pointing at Ryan. "The deal was the drive for Cross. He had nothing to do with this." Thorne laughed. "Oh, honey, there are no deals, just loose ends." He signaled to his men. "Kill the commander. Secure the girl." 2 contractors raised their rifles toward Ryan. Ryan didn't flinch. He looked Thorne dead in the eye and smiled. "Now," Ryan whispered. Thwip. A single shot rang out from the top of the giant crane overhead. The contractor aiming at Ryan dropped, a hole in his shoulder. Hernandez, the sniper, was awake and angry. Simultaneously, the doors of the shipping containers surrounding the lot flew open. "Contact front!" Miller screamed, leading the charge. The shipyard erupted. Ryan snapped the zip ties, rolled forward, and grabbed the pistol he had taped to the underside of a metal grate on the ground. He came up firing. Thorne's mercenaries were caught in a classic L-shaped ambush. They were taking fire from the crane, the containers, and the ground. They were elite, but they were fighting SEALs who were fighting for their lives and their honor. Thorne panicked. He scrambled back toward his SUV, pulling a weapon. Ashley was waiting. She didn't run. She sprinted at him. Thorne raised his gun, but Ashley slid on the wet concrete, kicking his legs out from under him. He hit the ground hard. Before he could recover, Ashley was on top of him, her forearm pressing into his windpipe, her own gun pressed against his temple. "Call them off!" she screamed. "They won't stop!" Thorne choked out. "They're paid to—" Boom! A massive explosion rocked the entrance of the shipyard. An APC, armored personnel carrier, with FBI painted on the side, crashed through the gate, followed by NYPD cruisers. "Federal agents, drop your weapons!" The voice on the loudspeaker was booming. It wasn't Thorne's men. It was the cavalry. Thorne's mercenaries, realizing the tide had turned, threw down their weapons. Ryan walked over, limping slightly. He stood over Thorne and Ashley. "How?" Thorne gasped, looking at the real FBI agents swarming the yard. "I control the bureau." "You control a faction," Ryan said, looking at a tall, stern woman in a suit walking toward them. Assistant Director Miller, no relation to the SEAL. "I called my admiral. He called the director. We sent them the files 10 minutes ago." Ashley slowly holstered her weapon. She stood up, looking down at the man who had stolen 2 years of her life. "It's over, Thorne," she said quietly. Assistant Director Miller walked up. She looked at Ryan, then at Ashley. "Agent Vance," the director said. "Or should I say, Lieutenant Vance. We've reviewed the drive. You're cleared. All charges are dropped." Ashley let out a breath she felt like she had been holding for 700 days. Her knees buckled. Ryan caught her. He pulled her into him, his arms wrapping around her shoulders, holding her up. She buried her face in his chest, shaking. "I got you," Ryan whispered into her hair. "I got you." Around them, the SEALs were high-fiving. The medics were checking the mercenaries, and the sun was fully up, shining on a world that was finally, truly safe. 3 weeks later, the boardwalk was quiet. The ocean breeze was cool. Ashley sat on a bench, watching the waves. She wore a simple sundress, no tactical gear, no scrubs. She looked like a normal woman. "Seat taken?" Ryan stood there. He was out of uniform, wearing jeans and a t-shirt. He held 2 coffees. "Depends," Ashley smiled, taking the cup. "Is this peace-offering coffee? Or let's start over coffee?" "Both," Ryan said, sitting down. "The team misses you. Miller keeps asking when Combat Barbie is coming back to fix his dressing." Ashley laughed. It was a genuine light sound. "I'm thinking of medical school. Real medical school this time. No fake IDs." Ryan looked at her. The intensity of the battlefield was gone, replaced by a warmth that made her heart skip. "You'd be a hell of a doctor," he said. He reached out and took her hand. "But whatever you do, don't go too far. I've got a lot of vacation time saved up. Ashley squeezed his hand. I'm not going anywhere, Ryan. She looked at the horizon. The storm was over. The nurse had saved the soldier had saved the spy, and together they had saved themselves. If you enjoyed this story, please like and share. Subscribing helps me write more thrillers like this.